All right, today we're jumping right into the field report of a young trainer named Neil as he explores this incredibly misty region. Our source is Chapter 4, Ocean Beach, and it takes us to a place so dangerous, locals actually call it the graveyard of the Pacific. Let's dig into what he found there. Yeah, you can tell right away this is not your typical sunny vacation spot. The moment Neil arrives, the air gets all salty and just thick with fog. They call it the Skeleton Coast, and it's one of those places where the line between our world and the deep, dark ocean feels really, really thin. And there's a good reason it's called the Graveyard of the Pacific. It's this super chaotic spot where the massive Pacific Ocean crashes into the Columbia River. The whole shoreline is just covered in the bones of old ships. It's a tough environment for sure, but it also means it's packed with some really unique Pokemon. So, what kind of Pokemon would actually thrive in a place this wild? Well, as you can probably guess, it is a total paradise for water, ghost, and dark types. That's a pretty challenging lineup, even for a trainer who's been around the block. Neil's first stop is this huge arch on the beach, the Long Beach Arch. Now, you might think it's just a cool photo op for tourists, but the local stories call it a tide anchor. The legend says it's some kind of mystical thing that keeps the whole town from getting dragged out to sea. And you just know a place with a legend like that has to have a guardian, right? As Neil walked under the arch, he felt this heavy, rhythmic thump, thump, thump coming from right under his feet. Something absolutely massive was buried just beneath the sand. And then it just rises up from the ground. It's an Arcodile, this colossal water and rock type Pokemon. Its shell is described as looking exactly like a giant wooden beam just covered in barnacles. I mean, it doesn't just live in the landscape, it is the landscape. So you've got this Archidal moving with a slow, crushing force, like a soccer defender you just cannot get past. But Neil, he countered that raw power with his sharp video game reflexes, just nimbly dodging its huge crab hammer attack. But here's the thing, it wasn't really an attack. Neil realized pretty quick that Archigabol was just a parent, a territorial one, protecting its nest of beautiful sea glass. So, instead of fighting, he offered it a gift, a shiny blue bottle cap. And with that one simple gesture, he earned its respect. So, leaving the arch behind, Neil keeps going down the coast until he gets to this seriously haunting sight, the rusted, skeletal remains of the Peter Iredale. It was this massive steel ship that wrecked way back in 1906. The story here is just fantastic. A local legend says it wasn't a storm that wrecked the ship. No, it was the song of a legendary Pokemon that messed with its compasses. And now, they say spirits haunt the wreckage. And this is where we made Iredrest, a ghost and steel type that just perfectly captures the feel of this whole region. It's this floating, tangled mess of rusted chains and ripped-up sails, all glowing with this creepy green light. It's like a living piece of the shipwreck itself. To really get the atmosphere, the source material makes this perfect comparison. As Iredress was screeching and swirling around him, Neil felt like he was facing a Grindylow in the Black Lake from Harry Potter. That really paints a picture, doesn't it? Now, instead of just chucking Pokeballs wildly, Neil used his chess mind. He actually watched the waves, calculated the timing of the tide coming in, and used the shipwreck itself to corner the ghost Pokemon where it had no way out. Pretty smart. So this new ghost and steel type has this incredible ability called Cursed Compass. It literally confuses any opponent that uses a steel type move against it. A perfect nod to the shipwreck's legend. And my favorite part? It apparently hates being called garbage. No, it prefers the term vintage. A ghost with some standards. I love it. Okay, for his final stop, Neil heads away from the foggy beach and into the bright neon glow of Marsh's Free Museum. It's one of those classic roadside attractions, a dusty maze filled with all sorts of weird curiosities and old-school arcade games. Come on, in a place that proudly shows off things like Jake the Alligator Man, you just know there has to be a very strange Pokemon hiding somewhere. But what could possibly blend in with all that organized chaos? Say hello to Taxidermite, a bug and ghost type Pokemon that has totally mastered hiding in plain sight. It loves to mimic fake legends, and Neil found it perfectly disguised as a piece of taxidermy, a little stuffed squirrel playing a tiny banjo. And the way he found it was a total accident. Neil was walking by holding a Sonic the Hedgehog plushie, and it just accidentally bumped into the display. The squirrel instantly vanished in a puff of mothballs and then reappeared behind a jar of pickled eggs. The jig was up. So Neil realized this Pokemon absolutely loves games and puzzles. So what does he do? He challenges it to a match on a vintage arcade cabinet. And after Neil beat the high score, the little taxidermite was so impressed with his button mashing skills that it just willingly joined his team. When you look at Neil's day like this, you really see the core lesson of his journey. He discovered 3 incredible new Pokemon, and not a single one was caught in a traditional battle. He used empathy to befriend Arcadile, strategy to outsmart Iris, and just playful skill to win over Taxidermite. And that really brings us to the end of this field report. It just goes to show you that being a great trainer is about so much more than just strength. It's about being observant, creative, and respectful. So looking at these 3, which one do you think you could handle? The big territorial guardian, the sneaky strategic ghost, or the little puzzle-loving mimic? Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.